Welcome to It Comes in Pints, a Seattle Study Club podcast where we will explore a myriad of topics: clinical, health and well-being, psychological, education, business, and much more. I'm your host, Greg Tice.
Hi, my name is Bryton Nield, CEO and co-founder of HiringPros.com, where we specialize in helping private practices hire right-fit associate dentists.
All right, so I want to welcome all of our listeners to the newest episode of It Comes in Pints, a Seattle Study Club podcast with me, your host, Greg Tice. Today, our guest is Bryton Nield from the newly renamed Hiring Pros, used to be Dentist Partner Pros, and I'm really excited about today's conversation. I think it's top of mind for a lot of practices is to how do we bring in an associate? Do we bring in an associate? What does the process look like? And Bryton is an expert in this. Before we get started, however, Bryton, It Comes in Pints is really designed to be like you and I are just sitting in a pub, having a beer, having a conversation. So that's what I want this to be like.
Great.
In order to be sitting in a pub, you need to have a drink. So what are we having today?
See, I've got 3 little kids, so I require liquid energy, not so much courage. I need energy. So I'm with a white Monster today. Is my go-to
White Monster
beverage.
energy drink. Okay. I have not tried that one. What's the flavor?
You know, I don't even know if let's read. I don't even know what they call it. If it has a flavor on here, if you're an energy drink drinker, you know that the White Monster is kind of like the tried and true go-to. They also sell them at Costco for substantially cheaper in large pallets. So that's why we've got the White Monsters going right now.
Okay, good, because they're in pallets. I get that. Well, today I am drinking a Black Raven Trickster IPA from it's a local brewery here in Seattle. So we'll just show that. And cheers, my friend.
Cheers.
All right, I'm looking forward to this. Okay, so let's jump into this. I have said you're an expert in helping people bring associates into their practice. Help me prove that true.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
Tell me a little bit about your background, how you got into this, what you guys are doing, just a quick 35,000 foot view.
Yeah. So kind of the Hiring Pros origin story, if you will. So I'm one of the co-founders. I co-founded it with my partner, Bob Spiel, who's been a practice management consultant for nearly 20 years, spoken at a lot of the big events. And he had hired, hundreds, if not more like thousands of people throughout his career. And when he came to dentistry, came from hospital, surgical center CEO, had worked in a lot of leadership positions, found his way to dentistry, and was having a conversation with Linda Miles. Do you know Linda Miles?
Very well. Love Linda.
Yes, she's fantastic, right? And
we'll give her a shout out. Hey, Linda. Now you can listen to all the episodes.
She's the best. And so they were talking about associateships, and Linda kind of mentioned like how poorly practice owners are at hiring associates. And she said, like 7 out of 10 don't work out. And Bob was just confused and like, what? How could that even be possible? And so he then started to work out a framework to help his clients hire right associates. And he started to build out a really great framework. Well, in my previous career, I was a COO and had built some teams pretty quickly, and found that the hiring and the leadership aspect was something I really loved and enjoyed. And when I exited that company, Bob and I found each other saying, hey, there's a massive need to help the industry hire better and through an actual proven framework. And so that's when we decided to form Hiring Pros, was to transform this 75% failure rate in dental associateships and take this original model that he had and combine my expertise with leadership and building teams. And we built a model that's transformed that from a 75% failure rate to well over, like, we have a nearly 90% success rate. So instead of 3 out of 4 failing, we have 9 out of 10 that are succeeding.
Okay, so let's start there. Baseline statistics. Traditionally, what I'm hearing is 75% of associateships fail.
Yep.
So the two questions are, one, what's that time frame for failure?
Yeah.
And two, probably more importantly, why?
Yeah. Good questions. Yeah. And that's just not just a gut thing. You can find reports from Dental Post, Dental Economics, a bunch of different dental related research bases that say, hey, this is the average tenure. 10 years a little bit different than, so good question on the first one. What's the average timeline on failure? So the average tenure for associateships is somewhere around like 14 to 18 months or something like that.
That's it.
That's it. Yeah. So most failures, what we found, are happening within the first 6 to 9 months of an associateship. Most
Now,
failures.
is that, I'm going to interrupt you. I have a tendency
No,
to
bring
do
it.
that.
Let's go. We're at a pub.
Is that recognizing the failure but not acting yet? Is that why it's
No, they're getting fired. People are fired or getting quitting. Like, the relationship is ending. Yeah, and it's sad because even most people are signing 1-2 year contracts, but they're ending before then. And it's not a lot of practice owners are going to say it's the associateship's fault, like the associate's fault. Oh, they weren't as good as they wanted. And a lot of the associates are going to say it was the practice's fault. I found it's equal parts, both parties.
But that's human nature, right?
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
always
So
self-aggrandizing a little bit.
yeah. So, like, why do they fail? It's a complex question. I wish we could point, it was this one thing is like the reason they all fail. If that were the case, like, we'd probably be printing money right now because we could solve that one thing. But it's a more complex issue than that, right? I think one of the things that is a disadvantage to dentists as a nature of what they do and how they operate is they, unlike almost any other business, like professional relationship, dentistry, like two dentists in the same office, is close to like a marriage as you're going to find.
It's very intimate. Yeah.
Yeah, in a professional setting. And it's because they share everything. They share patients, they share equipment, they share office space, they share staff, they are sharing going to CE events together. Like, it's a very, very intimate relationship. And so when you look at it from that kind of lens, you start to see, okay, the intricacies of communication, values, how we view money, maybe how we're doing, one person's doing a crown and a filling this way, and the other dentist doing crowning and filling this way. And it's not that either one of them are bad, it's just that they're different. It's just like when you first get married and you're learning how to live with this new person. And it's like my wife hangs the shirts on the hangers the opposite direction that I hang the shirts on the hangers, right? But that starts to show up in these relationships in dental. And so why they fail is because there's so many little things like that. And what we found is that most people are approaching the hiring and the getting into a relationship like this purely based on gut vibes and hoping it works out. Right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, part of that is to defend them a little bit.
For sure.
Neither the clinicians who own the practice nor the associates were taught ever how to manage this relationship, how to approach it, how to do it, which I think is one of the reasons you have such a viable business, is because that's a need that's being filled in the community.
Yeah. No, and that's what I'm saying. I think there's a lot of disadvantages in this relationship. Part of it is, as practice owners, you have to, like, I heard someone put it this way. It's like asking a pilot to check in the passengers, like check in the bags, load the bags underneath the plane, do the safety checks, pass out all the snacks, and then all at the same time, they need to be flying the plane. It's like a practice owner has so many things on their shoulders, especially because, unlike a lot of other businesses, they become they're not just an owner, but they're also the sole producer for revenue. Like they're also they're also the salesperson, they're the owner, they're the manager. They have a lot of things going through them. And so when it comes to like CE, it doesn't make a lot of sense to go invest in like how to hire better, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So obviously, when it doesn't work out, there's the emotional pain, right? The psychological, however you want to phrase it. But there's a financial cost to that too. And I'm wondering if it's similar to other businesses. Now, I have heard and read over the last decade to fire an employee and replace them is somewhere between, the cost of that is somewhere between 200% and 400% of that employee's salary. That's the hit that the business takes. What does that look like in dentistry if an associate doesn't work out?
Yeah, I love that you bring it up, Greg, because I don't think we actually consider the costs enough, especially when we start to diagnose the entire problem. So many of them fail, and a lot of people just have I can't tell you how many practice owners I've talked to of like, oh, it's just the way it is, and we're just going to kind of keep dealing with it. I'll find one eventually that works out for me. Like it's just kind of a numbers game at this point. But they're not, unfortunately for them, they're not considering the cost that's actually impacting their business. So we've seen a minimum cost for each failed associateship, about $200,000 of opportunity costs and hard costs to the practice. And that doesn't really account for the emotional stress, especially if too many people end up hiring a friend or a family member that maybe they went to dental school with, or it's like my cousin's nephew who's graduating dental school, and it's like, hey, come check out our practice. And now you're not just having a failed employee to employer relationship, you also have the intricacies of family and friendships, and it's messy.
Yep. Okay. So we've talked a little bit about failure, the cost of failure, the pain of it not working out. Let's flip the coin and talk about the other side. I'm thinking maybe I need an associate. I don't know, what does that look like? Like when is it appropriate for someone to look at bringing in an associate, and what are those factors? Is it how busy are they? How full is their schedule? What's their revenue? Is it the number of ops what are the primary considerations or markers that would say, yo, you need to get moving on this now?
Yeah, good question. I think there's two big boxes to check. First one is that emotional aspect. Okay, not like, let's just be if we could be really honest and look at ourselves in the mirror. Not all practice owners should have another doctor in the practice. Even if all the numbers are there, leadership wise, management wise, we may not be good at playing with others. Okay. And if we can be really honest, that's helpful. But if you are someone that's like, I actually would kind of like sharing with someone. I don't want to be totally on an island. I enjoy the collaboration aspect. I think I could enjoy practicing with another doctor. Like I could enjoy sharing and not being like the total go-to guy. And I don't have a lot of ego around that. If that's the case, then you're like a little bit more emotionally, mentally prepared to bring on someone. I think that's an important first box to check. It's like,
absolutely.
Are you actually willing to sacrifice to feed someone else, maybe even before yourself? Because as a good leader, that's what you should do.
Yep. Leaders eat last, right? Great book.
Yeah. I love Simon Sinek. So, so that's the first box. I think like we need to emotionally check in with ourselves and be very honest.
So I'm going to stop you there. Do you help me figure that out? Are you helping me, Greg, figure out, am I actually ready emotionally?
Yeah. So we turn a lot of people away that think they need an associate to solve their problem. And as we get to know them a little bit more through our discovery call process, it kind of becomes not even clear to just us, but also like very obviously clear to them of like, I don't really think this is a path for me. And so maybe instead of going down the associateship path, they can start to optimize what they're doing. They eliminate the low-hanging procedures, and they can continue to scale in different ways.
I'm sure they appreciate that, right?
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, that's looking out for their best interest and not just selling them a service.
Yeah. Well, for us, we always strive for win-win, always. And the one or two times that we didn't do that maybe we did get like, oh, okay, they really want it, let's push it.
Yep.
It never ends well. Like for us or for the client or for the associate, anyone. It's just not good. So I would rather just cut it, no deal, walk away. It's not good for any of us. Let's just call it as it is.
Good. Okay, so I'm emotionally ready.
Yeah, so we're emotionally ready. Then you got to say, okay, is my practice actually ready? Because a lot of practice owners are feeling burnt out and they're feeling maybe a little overwhelmed, and they think, okay, I just need another doctor in here and it'll solve my problems. I it's important to note, associate, like all other team members, are amplifiers. And when you hire a headache, the headache only gets worse. Okay? And so it's especially impactful with a doctor. Like they will amplify all the good or they'll amplify all the bad, depending on how we hire and if we're ready and all that stuff. So we got to make sure we're ready. So there's 4 things, if I'm a practice owner, there's 4 boxes you really want to check as far as, is my practice ready? Okay, I call this like the associate readiness matrix. Okay. First box to check is just overall busyness. Okay. Production, are we busy enough on the production side? Do we have enough total active patients to go around? And so some kind of rough benchmarks. There's a lot of variance depending on if you're a fee-for-service practice or if you're in network a lot, what kind of procedures you're doing. But roughly, if you're doing about 1.5 million top line,
As a
solo practice owner, that's a pretty good indicator of like, okay, I'm probably right around that range. Anywhere from 1.5 to 2 is a good range to start to consider, am I busy enough? Okay. Then you go into just new patient flow. Either are we bringing in enough consistent new patients? Minimum benchmark would be around 25 new patients per month. Unless we're scheduling out, like we have a client right now, her new patients are scheduled out 13 months. Insane. Tiny.
Yeah,
she's
that's
in a
trouble. That's
small
begging
market.
for trouble.
Yeah, small market, but yeah, they're scheduled out super, super far. And so it's like there's tons of unmet demand that if we just had another doctor, boom, we could move those people up on the schedule and they're there. Then you go to space. Do we even have enough ops? Right?
Yep.
That's you can get pretty creative if you have at least 5. But if you don't have at least 5 total ops, meaning you have a few for hygiene and a few doctor ops, then you can get creative with the schedule. But if you can have 6 or 7, you basically want, usually most doctors want 2 ops to be able to work out of on a normal day, and then you're going to have a handful of hygiene. So you just want to make sure you've got the extra op space. If you're not, then how creative are we willing to get on the schedule? Do I take time off? Like, do I cut back my schedule? Whatever. But you got to make sure you've got room. Can we expand? Whatever. And then the last bit is just, do I have the margin? Do I have the overhead, the margin to even be able to afford to pay someone? And so on a GP practice, most are around 60 to 70%. You're going to want to be able to pay an associate at least 30%. Minimum benchmark is like a 30% of collections. So if my overhead's at 75% and I bring in another doctor, I'm basically losing 5% on every single thing that they do. Like I'm losing money. That's not like hard, fast numbers, but it's close.
Right.
Right?
Yeah,
so you just want
math.
you just want to have the margin there, that we can afford it. So let me just give an opposite example of someone that's not ready. I had someone book on my calendar the other day. They had 3 ops. They were doing about 1.2 top line, and overhead was at 75%. It's like, none of the benchmarks indicate that you should even consider bringing on another doctor, right? And so it's like, hey, love to help. It's not going to work. You're not ready. You probably got to keep proven some efficiencies internally. I don't know what you're paying people that you're going to have a 74% overhead at that rate. But anyways, so that's just an example of how that could negatively affect your practice as a practice. But a lot of people do that. They'll jump the gun. They think they want help. They're not quite ready. And then they have no chance of success to even begin with.
Yep. So, all right. So let me review and make sure I got these. So the benchmarks, once we get past the, yes, you're emotionally ready, or you might be emotionally ready, right? That's like being ready to have kids.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever ready to have kids, but you're almost there.
You're open to it. Yeah. You're willing to take on the challenge.
Yeah. Then the benchmarks would be in the ballpark of, in general, these are generalizations.
Yeah.
Top line revenue of about 1.5.
Yeah.
About 25 or so new patients a month. Coming in. In the neighborhood of 5+ operatories available for use, depending.
Across,
I'm sure that depends on the number of hygienists that are practicing and active, et cetera. And a margin somewhere in the 60 to 70% range.
Yeah, you can't be over 70. You got to be below.
Right. Well, that's not
70.
margin. Excuse me. That's
overhead.
Those are your expenses, right? Your overhead is 60.
Yeah. So margin would be like 30 to 40%. Yeah,
30 to 40% margin. Okay.
Yep.
So 2 random questions that sort of jumped into my head. One, probably more simple than the other. The first is, and I don't even know why I'm asking this, but if I hire an associate, how many additional staff do I need to add to support that associate over the course of the next 9 to 12 months? Obviously an assistant, probably.
Yeah, I think it depends on what your current structure is, right? That's the first thing. But like additional staff, it's usually at least 1 to 2 new assistants, depending on how busy and how quickly busy we can get this doctor. That's the big thing. If you have a big influx of patients, the next person's probably going to be another front desk person, and then a hygienist is going to be on the horizon as well.
As you start to increase your patient volume, you'll have more
you might have more. So it would just depend on whatever your pinch point is at that time. One thing that we advise, you didn't ask this, but just because we're on the topic of support team, just a hot tip, if you are onboarding a new associate, one of the things that you can do to set them up for success is have your senior most assistant, your favorite assistant, help onboard and train them for the first 60, 90 days, is work with this new doctor exclusively, which a lot of doctor owners don't like to hear.
No, they got to give up their best friend.
Yeah, they don't like to hear because they're so good and they help you a ton, but it's a way that can really actually help set that new doctor up for success.
Yeah, which is a good way to think about it, to invest in the growth of that associate.
Exactly.
Okay, so that was one random question. The other that was jumping into my head as you were going through that was, do these parameters change depending on the economics in the country at the time? Meaning, if we're in a boom cycle, are the numbers different? Are the parameters different? If we're in a, right now it can be debated, but there are still inflationary pressures. We're in kind of a stagnant mode at the moment. Do those change economically?
Yeah, I think the bottom line number that is really critical has got to be that margin.
Okay.
So because if you're working on percentages, those are irrelevant to up or downturns or whatever, right? So if we're working on margins and percentages, then they're the same. So that's where I like to play, is like let's base it on margin and what room we have to play. Because the other thing is, you could have a pretty high performing, very implant driven, like on-X type practice that is producing like crazy, like 2 million plus, and they could have really healthy margin, but they may not have very high patient volume because they're just doing less patients, higher production per patient kind of a thing. And so there is obviously variance, and there's different cases that I don't know if it goes across the board, but we found those 4 kind of minimum benchmarks are a really good spot to at least have a conversation.
What I'm hearing you say is not really impacted by the economy at all, because you're looking at a percentage of production.
I think it's key to work on margin, and percentage, because I know a lot of practice owners are getting pinched right now because of increase of supplies and increased staff costs and increase of obviously like inflation and all those different things. But if you're working on margin, that is irrelevant. So
that makes perfect sense to me. So, okay. So we've determined that we're emotionally almost ready. The benchmarks are within relatively decent parameters. What do I need to do to get the right person? Besides saying bring in hiring pros, what are the steps I need to do to bring in the right person?
Go to hiringpros.com. No, I'm going to give like real tactical advice.
We'll give you the pitch at the end. You totally deserve it.
I agree. But so a lot of times when people approach hiring, it's like going to like Vegas, hopping on the roulette table and hoping it lands on black. You want someone, and you hope it works out, but we're just going on it based on gut and vibes, right? We laugh, but it's true. I think what I've seen is people spend more time planning their vacation than they do planning who they're actually going to hire and who's going to be a good fit for them, right? And vacations are way more fun than hiring. Let's be honest, right? But so that's the first step that I always encourage someone to begin, is to begin with the end in mind and take pen to paper and actually write down what are the core characteristics that we need to see in someone that's going to fit well with our practice. Okay. And I know the doctor that's following along, the first thing they're going to go write down is I need them to be some sort of clinically competent. I need them to do crown and bridge. Hopefully they can do some implant, maybe a little bit of endo, whatever. And that's typically where it ends. And then I hope they're kind of like a nice person. Maybe they like my sports team, or maybe we like whatever, right? I had someone the other day said a requirement for me is they've got to be MAGA pro. I was like, okay. But
they've got to like to fly fish.
Yeah, they've got to like whatever it is, right? And so I think that's great. If I were to give a little bit more insight there's kind of 4 boxes that you could check when you're building out what I call the ideal avatar of the candidate. First is skills. What are the skills required, non-negotiable for them to come in and be successful in our practice? And then on top of like requirements, then it's like, okay, what are the nice to haves? Like if they also could do this, that would be great, but it's not a non-negotiable. Next would be culture. What's our culture actually like? Culture is a fancy word. A lot of people throw it around. It's not just values on a wall, but it's really just like, what are the behaviors that we consistently do as an organization? How would we know if somebody walked in off the street that they were our people? They were always meant to work with us. That's what we're talking about, culture. So what's our culture like, and how do we find if someone's in alignment there? Then it's just character and personality traits. For example, if you're a practice owner, there's 2 different kinds here. If you're a practice owner, let's say you've got 5 years left, you're looking to hire an associate that you can transition through, okay? That's a very different kind of personality style compared to maybe you're a younger mid-40s who's looking for a doctor to come in and just kind of do like the bread and butter stuff so you can do the bigger cases. Different personality styles, right? You're going to need someone on the other that's got to be a little bit more driven, maybe a little bit more ambitious. They're going to want ownership. They don't mind getting into the weeds of the business. Like those are different compared to someone that we just want as like an employee to come in, do the work and clock out. Does that make sense? So you've got those 3, right? You've got skills, culture, character, and personality. And then the last one is level of commitment. Or personal buy-in or personal goals. Is this someone we want to have become a partner in the practice or to transition ownership to? Or if we could get 2 years out of them, that would be awesome. Because it's important to really identify that. I mean, I know everybody, there's a lot of people who are like, well, I just want like a 20-year associate. That'd be amazing. If you can find them, great. But most people want a place that they can continue to grow. And a lot of really ambitious dentists want some skin in the game, some sort of ownership equity thing. And so, yeah, what's the level of commitment that we need out of this person? And we just got to get honest with ourselves, and that's going to affect the type of offer that we can put into place and pathway to partnership and all that stuff. So when we check those 4 boxes, we start to actually take pen to paper. What are the skills required? What's the culture like? What are the personality traits? And then what's the commitment level we need? You're going to have a much clearer picture of who's the type of person that's going to start to succeed in our role compared to like, oh yeah, I hope they can do some crown and bridge, maybe a little bit of implants, and let's go find that person.
All right, I want to dive into this a little bit. So you started this portion by talking about the ideal avatar, and the question I have here is, are we defining the ideal avatar, or are we defining the minimum specs necessary to get on the field? And here's the anecdote I'll use, right? You go to someone and say, what do you want? And they say, you know what I need or want is a car. I need a car. What kind of car? Oh, any car, it doesn't matter, right? That's minimum, like as long as it runs, that's what you're going to end up with is a car that runs. But if you define, I want a 2024 Ford Bronco, I wanted this, and I want these pieces, you're going to start to see those things. So where are you recommending people start, and what does that look like?
Yeah, we do both. So we've built a model that we can compensate for both. When you go through the 4 pillars, you have to have non-negotiables. Okay, what's our ideal avatar non-negotiables? For some practices, that might mean that a non-negotiable is they have to want to be an owner within 2 years or something like that, right? But for other practices, that might just be a nice to have. And like in an ideal world, yeah, they'd come in and maybe in 2 to 3 years, they'd be open to becoming an owner, right? And so we have a specific kind of proprietary way of that we weight those characteristics into non-negotiables and nice to haves, and we build out a model to weight those characteristics in a very specific way, and we define them very, very specifically. But if I didn't know how to do that, I think if you just got really clear on the non-negotiables, and then anything that's not a non-negotiable is just a nice to have, that's a great place to be. And I think it's okay to be a little bit ambitious, but also you have to balance it with realistic.
Yes.
Because
can I afford the Ford Bronco, even though that's
exactly yeah. Can I afford it? Am I even the type of leader that could attract someone like that? Do I have the ability to do that? I can't tell you how many people I talk with. They're like, oh yeah, can you just go find us a dentist that can do all on X all day, every day. They've got a ton of experience doing that, and they're a great culture fit and all these things. Like, yeah, well, let me just call up Amazon. I'll prime ship them to your office tomorrow. But it does, and then they want to offer $750 a day and says it's good to go. But anyway, so yeah, we have to be very honest and realistic. But also, I think the part that is overlooked too often is the culture and the personality aspect. And like, who could we actually work with and be happy with? I think that's where you can get a little bit more.
We're going to get into that. We're going to get into that because I warned you up front about this.
I know.
So skills are important. Culture is important. The level of commitment is important. I think those can be sussed out, right, through discussion and engagement and interview.
Yeah.
The personality piece, I have challenges with.
Yeah, it's tricky.
It's too easy to be in the honeymoon phase and put on your best face in an interview process. How are you guys dialing in, Or how would you recommend clinicians dial in to figure out, is there a fit here from a character personality standpoint?
Yeah. The first step is you have to know who you are actually like as a practice owner. So I'm a huge, I love leadership. I think it's one of the most powerful forces in the world is your ability to lead and influence. But the first step of being a good leader is we have to be honest of like who we actually are. Mm-hmm. So I like the quote, what we don't know about ourselves controls us. So the opposite of that is what we do know about ourselves, we allow to be in control of. That makes sense. And so if I'm a person who is, just to give me as an example, I'm a big picture thinker, love to dream, love to vision, not the greatest at like nitty gritty tasks, completing projects. Those are harder for me. They take more energy. But I really love to be like on podcasts. Like this gives me energy. This is fun for me. It's not for everyone, right? Not for everyone. But, and so I have to understand those things about me because so goes the leader, so goes the practice, so goes the business. And if I don't realize that I'm a very direct communicator or, and I get really annoyed with those that are indirect or slow paced or whatever it is, we have to understand who we are first. Okay. So I think that's always helpful to start. And then you realize who would not be good to work with so you can kind of avoid them. So that's the first step. We got to get clear on who we are and how we show up. And then as far as seeking out personality, it is tricky. Humans are ever changing. I think, and we have the ability to what's the word? Like we can be like chameleons. We can kind of adjust.
We can change.
Yeah, we can adjust. We can grow. I'm a huge believer. I'm a big growth mindset person. I believe that anybody with the right ambitions, time, effort can change, grow, develop skills, whatever. So I don't think it's a hard, fast thing. With that being said, I think you can get pretty close to understanding how someone might show up, in a lot better accuracy compared to just like based on one dinner date, hoping it works out kind of a thing. Right. And so for us, we use tools like DISC. It's one of the data points that we use throughout the process. We always have our clients take a DISC assessment, and then we always have our candidates take it as well when they get to that part of the process.
All right. So you knew this was where I was leading.
Yeah.
Because we had this conversation before, and you know how I feel about DISC profiling.
Yeah.
And if anybody doesn't, just call Jerry Gottlieb with GG Consulting, and she'll tell you because she and I get into it every time we're together.
Every time.
So just as a big picture for our listeners, so they know, I have a problem with DISC profiling for two reasons. One, I don't believe personalities are fixed.
Agreed.
Not only are they not fixed over time, they're not fixed for situation. I'm going to be a very different personality here on the podcast than I am with my boss, than I am with my wife or my kids.
Yep.
The other is I believe those can change. If it's important to me to become more direct, more introverted, more whatever it is, social, that is absolutely doable.
Totally.
The challenge is people take a DISC profile and go, oh, I'm a D, so I can be a jerk 24/7, and
I'm in a box.
Just have to deal with it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I'm more in the favor of you, Greg. Like personally, I've taken all of them. I've taken the DISC, I've taken the Enneagram, I've taken the Colby, I've taken the Working Genius, I've taken the Myers-Briggs. I've taken all of them.
Strengths Finder.
Yeah, like all of them.
Yep.
They're pretty consistent. I'm pretty consistent throughout my time of taking those. But an interesting example is my co-founder, Bob. When he first took DISC, I don't know, 10 plus years ago, he was a straight S. Okay. And then when I said, hey, I really want you to take it again as we've become partnerships. I'm just curious what would happen. Now he's a straight D. And I think, but what happened was through his years of consulting.
D is direct, just for our listeners.
Very
D is
direct,
not the other
dominant personality style. Yeah, very action oriented, fast paced, all those things. And I think he had to learn how to get comfortable with that in the consulting world. Just in that many conversations, that many reps, it was probably pretty uncomfortable for him at first, and eventually it's just like how he's learned to operate and live.
Yeah.
So I 100% agree. I think humans are ever changing and so on and so forth. So
I'm with you. So here's where I was going with all of this. I think, it's not just DISC. You guys are looking at psychological profiles. Is there a match? Is there a potential match?
Yeah.
Between these two individuals? And that's not a hard and fast. It's not round peg, round hole, square peg, square hole. There are a lot of complications and subtleties to that mixture coming together.
Totally. Yeah, I think we can get pretty close. We can have a pretty good idea, but we don't have a crystal ball that can perfectly predict, oh yeah, you two are like soulmates. You'll be good forever. You don't even have to work on this relationship at all. That's just, anybody that's selling you that, run the other way, because that's just snake oil. Like that's not going to happen. But we try to get really, really intense. I don't want to say intense, but intense throughout our vetting process of understanding that this is not just a $200,000 decision. The ROI on like bringing on a right fit is millions of dollars of return to the practice. So this is millions of dollars of a decision.
Yep.
So we should treat it with that level of intensity, almost as if, we were doing the due diligence to buy a practice. You're going to look under the hood. You're going to look at all the equipment. You're going to look at the P&Ls for the last few years. You're going to want to make sure that what you're bringing on as advertised, right?
Yeah.
And so we run people through multiple interviews from different team members, on-site visits, interviews with the doctor, and all those different data points are being scored back to that ideal person from different people's perspectives. And so what we found is when you have multiple perspectives scoring on the same type of criteria, you get a lot more accurate view compared to the opposite, which is a lot of just like gut vibe feel.
Yep. Okay, so here's where I want to finish, because I think there's been a really good foundation here from the defining what are the parameters necessary for it to work, what are the avatar components that I'm looking for in a person. So we've figured that out. We've now found the right person. What are the most important steps to take? Or maybe a better way is, what are the common pitfalls that practices encounter when they're onboarding a new doctor? Because when I go back to your original statistics, 75% failure rate with a new associate. Statistically, by itself, that is not randomly possible. There's got to be a problem in the onboarding process, because you would think if I'm just hiring random people, there's a 50-50 shot it's going to work.
Yeah.
So at 75%, it's not just, is it the right person? There's got to be other issues there.
Yeah. So most people don't have any sort of onboarding plan in place at all. Gone are the days that we can just throw people into the deep end and hope they swim. The stream's just moving too fast. Like, we're just asking people to jump into the Nile and hope they make it across with all the crocodiles trying to get them. Like, it's just, that doesn't work. And so what we found is the first 90 days are absolutely critical. Okay. Step one should be doing everything you can. And this goes for both doctor owner and the associate. Step one is trust is earned. It's not just given. Okay. You have to earn the trust and prove trust with every single team member, first and foremost. The front desk, when they answer that call for the new patient, they have a decision to make. Even if we've trained them, even if we've asked them, they have to make a decision. Do I push this patient? Do I trust this new doctor? Or do I go back to the tried and true original doctor?
I mean, even go back further when they answer the phone. Is it Dr. Smith's office or is it Dr. Smith and Jones?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And so one thing that we do to start to get ahead of that is we actually involve the team from day one, getting them involved in that ideal avatars, getting their feedback, what's the practice culture like, all that stuff. And then once you're an associate in the practice, you should be doing everything you can to earn trust. Don't worry about getting busy. Get worried about building trust. And you build trust, like, it's not hard. You just do what you say you're going to do. You always communicate. You seek feedback often, every single day. You see how you could get better, see how you could support them, and actually show up as if you wanted to be there. Don't go in for the first few days and show one way, and then the next thing you know, you're in the back of the office looking at your phone the rest of the day. Yeah. People do it all the time. It's stupid. It drives me absolutely crazy. But they do it, right? And so if you get really clear, what we found is you got to get really clear on your first 90 days. As a practice owner, who are you going to involve in the onboarding? What does that onboarding look like? Onboarding is how quickly can we get this person in to be a full-fledged member of our team? And whether that's we need to put some training wheels on them clinically. If they're a new doctor, D4 or less than 1 year, I would start them with just very basic procedures at first. That's not forever, but probably for the first 90 days, all we're going to have them do is just do the bread and butter easy stuff. Right. Why? So they can prove to the rest of the team that they're good and that they feel comfortable having them work on their family and things like that.
Yeah,
right?
And develop an efficiency and a proficiency there as well.
Yeah, exactly. So there's things we have to go, but the key to do that is, as a practice owner, you can't be a dictatorship and just say this is how it is. As a leader, you've got to really involve the team and really set very clear expectations from the very, very beginning. The sooner you can set those expectations and you create constant feedback loops to be actually improving and seeing how things are going, that's going to make a huge difference. So one of the things that we do is we actually survey the teams every single month. How are things going? What's not going well? Why wouldn't you let them do work on you, et cetera, et cetera. And you can do that as a practice leader, just getting to know your team. So on the associate side, that's what I do. Show up, earn trust as quickly as you possibly can, and make that your primary goal. Do good work, earn trust. From a practice, sorry, go ahead. I know you're going to say something.
No, that's where I was going to say. And for the practice owner, what should they either do or not do?
Here's the worst thing a practice owner can do. The worst thing is to take patients from your associate's column on the schedule and move it over to your schedule. It is the absolute worst. You laugh. It happens every single day. And this is why. Because practice owners, when they get a new doctor in, their schedule will naturally become a little more light. Yeah. If their schedule's a little more light, they are technically going to make a little less money for the short term.
Right.
And when that starts to hit their bank account, they get frustrated. They go grab the patients, they move them over to their column, and they just start getting busy again. It is the single dumbest thing. The fastest way you can ruin a relationship with an associate is steal money from their bank account, because that's what you're doing, is stealing money from them.
Well, and you're violating trust as well, right? So
100%.
So you've got that piece happening also.
Yeah. So as a practice owner, don't do it. Play the long game. I know it'll be painful for the first few months, but that's what you signed up for. Remember when we talked about that emotional readiness? Part of being a good leader is you have to be willing to sacrifice a little bit to get them busy. The other thing I think practice owners should really know is, like, gone are the days that an associate's going to show up and you're going to expect them to get out there, hustle, and fill their own schedule. The market's too competitive anymore where associates don't have to do that. They expect to walk in and have the team fill their schedule for them. I'm not saying that's a good thing or it's a bad thing. I'm just saying that's how it is, okay? Especially because a lot of people come from DSOs, and in the DSO environment, they are burning and churning. They're running through patients like crazy, and their whole job is just to be a doctor.
So if I'm an associate and I walk in and I am willing to go out and pound the pavement and
Oh
work on.
yeah.
Does that not set me up as a better candidate as well?
It wildly does. Yeah, it does. It really can. You can really set yourself apart, especially if you have aspirations to be an owner. The key is to start thinking like an owner. And how does an owner have to, like, an owner has to fill the schedule. They have to get out there, build relationships. They have to be involved in the community. They have to do all those things. But it's not it. It used to be when you joined a practice, you knew they're basically providing me the equipment and the staff for me to fill up my schedule. And I have to go out and fill up my schedule, find people, advertise. It's just not that way anymore. When people come in and their schedule doesn't get busy, they'll just jump ship to a practice that will get them busy. Unfortunately, I don't know if it's good or bad. It just is what it is. So I think that's part of the readiness.
Hard truth. That's a hard truth.
I just want to close the loop on that. So some things that you could do successfully as a practice owner is to involve your team, give up your assistant to the new doctor for the first at least 30, 60 days, and then constantly check in. And when I mean constantly check in, it's not just, hey, how'd it go today? But it's like sit down and actually on a weekly basis, I would recommend doing like chart reviews. Have them bring their best and their worst case from the last week, and let's talk about it.
With them.
Treatment plan.
Yeah.
If your associate's open to it, have them be your assistant for the first 30 days. That can be a huge training thing, especially if they're young, if they're earlier on in their career. That can be a great way for them to start to see how you're doing things and actually develop some mentorship. The other thing I'd say is invest in CE with them.
Bring them into your study club. Absolutely.
Yeah. And all those different ways. I think there's a lot of ways. The single biggest thing that I've seen practice owners do is they just avoid talking to their associate. They don't talk to them.
Makes no sense to me.
They it does, but it doesn't. Because like a lot of practice owners are wildly conflict averse, right? They're perfectionists. They're super conflict averse. And, they maybe have never had to have conflict with another doctor before. And so that is terrifying. It brings a lot of anxiety. So we kick it down the road, we push it off, and what ends up happening is it ends up blowing up, and then the relationship ends. I can't tell you how many people that we've helped who we've hired a great fit, and one little thing turned into another little thing. These little molehills eventually turned into mountains. And all we have to do is get them on the phone and they can just talk to each other and it's all good again. But they don't talk to each other. And so that's the best thing you to do. If I were a practice owner and I had an associate, I would set at least a monthly one-on-one real conversation to provide each other feedback and learn how to lead another doctor. And if I could sit down and I could say, hey, this is one thing you were doing awesome, one way you need to get better, and then seek the feedback from them. Hey, how can I support you more in what you need support from me? Do you feel like you're getting the support from me? And hopefully that associate can be honest with you too. And that can really establish a lot more foundational relationship that's gonna help a lot.
So you're asking them to create a little bit of vulnerability there. Yeah. That's brilliant. Bryton, I want to thank you. So, I think there was tremendous value in this conversation. I think people will find a lot of information that will either solidify what they already believed or help them sort through where they need to go. I want to encourage anybody listening, if you're even considering bringing in an associate, give Bryton a call. The contact information will be in the show notes. There'll be an opportunity, but they'll sit down with you and talk through this and help you start to formulate a plan for where you might like to go. So one more time, thank you, Bryton, and I appreciate everything you do and the support you provide for all of these private practice clinicians out there.
Absolutely. It was a total pleasure. And we do have a free gift. So if anybody if they want, we have our associate hiring blueprint. It's an 11-page document, maps out our entire process, all the nuts and bolts, everything. If you want it and you find it would be helpful, you can go ahead and email me, Bryton, Bryton, @hiringpros.com. We'll share it to you for free. No questions asked. Happy to help provide that for you.
That's great. And we'll link to your email address as well in the show notes so people can ask for the hiring blueprint. Is that the
The
right
associate
term?
hiring blueprint. Yep.
Associate hiring blueprint. Very good. Thanks, Bryton. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks, Greg.